Hey everybody, welcome back to Completed It. I am your host, Andy Burrows, as always. And as you can see, I'm joined by one of my illustrious co-hosts. It's Yoda himself. It's the guru of Completed It. Neil, how are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm super excited, my friend. We say all the time on this show that we get to relive our childhood. Today, we literally get to sit down with someone who's embodied not just our childhoods, but childhoods all over the world and even into adulthood, may I say. I'm very, very honored to say that our guest today is John Morris, better known as the voice of Andy in Toy Story. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, my friend. John, I always kind of start these interviews. Did you think way back in 1995 that come 2026, you would still doing things like this and talking about a franchise that is it's coming back this year in 2026, my ad, which we're going to get into a little bit later on. Did you ever
hmm
think, John, that life would be this way back in 95 when you get a role in a movie, you're not quite sure where this movie's going to go. No one knows where this movie's going to go. And fast forward to 2026, and it's probably Pixar's biggest movies franchise of all time. I'm going to go out on a
hmm
limb and say Toy Story. What is it like for you, John?
So the short answer is no. I had no idea what would this would become. I auditioned for Andy and I was cast when I was 7 years old. So I was really young. And Pixar was much smaller at the time. They were in a different location. The staff was kind of a fraction of what it is now and what it's grown to become. And it was, as we know, the first feature-length animated film
Mhm.
created with computers. And so that was new. And as a 7-year-old, I just knew I was gonna voice, the boy who loves the toys in this movie, but I didn't necessarily know, when I started, I didn't know about Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. I didn't know, what it would become until I started seeing it advertised and on buses and billboards and things. And then I got a sense of like, oh my gosh, this is actually bigger than what I was expecting. Yeah.
How does the whole audition process work being at such a young age, John? Is it the fact that how did you first find out that there was a role going? Did they tell you, hey, it's going to be this movie called Toy Story, or did they just say, hey, look, it's going to be a movie? Because we've interviewed a few people before, and they're all like, well, I can't actually tell you what the movie is, but it's going to be pretty big. So how does the whole?
Yeah.
But you're just 7 years old. How does the whole process work back then?
Yeah, so basically, I had just got an agent when I was 6 years old. I took an acting workshop in San Francisco called Kids on Camera. And then I booked an agent from the talent showcase at the end. And I just had started auditioning. I got a few on-camera commercials. And then I got this audition, and they basically said, you're going to be, the main boy who loves his toys in this movie. And they asked us to bring our favorite toy to the audition. And I decided to bring all my X-Men action figures. My mom
Good
said
choice.
pick one. My mom said pick one. I was like, no, I'm bringing them all. So I brought them all in this case and I started just, playing with them and voicing the characters, starting with Storm and Wolverine and Professor X. And then, for the callback, then I read from the script, for Andy. And but the first audition was just like me playing with my toys. That was it. And, they later said the way you played with your toys, the way you used your imagination, you created voices is how we pictured Andy. The producer also said that there was something kind of sweet and special about my voice that they liked for Andy, in contrast to Sid,
Hmm.
who's very different from Andy. Yeah, yeah.
Can you like process what you're doing back then? Because obviously you're 7 years old.
Mhm.
What was the stage where you
Yeah.
realized, hey, this is actually something like huge. This is really big. Because you're just a
Yeah.
7-year-old kid. You're going into do your lines. You're doing the part, and you're like, hey, this is really cool.
Right.
I'm doing this voice. At what part of your life did you really think, oh my God, this is like the biggest animated movie on the planet. What point of your life did you
Yeah.
think, hang on a minute, this is not just me doing a voice in a random movie that, I'm not going to be talking about in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time.
Yeah.
What was the process for you like
hmm
when it suddenly dawned on you, hey, this is something big now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, for me as an actor, with all my projects, I always just try to like really stay in the moment, when I'm actually recording and just like focus on the lines, focus on the given circumstances, focus on the emotions. And then it's really the premieres, when I'm
Hmm.
can kind of like celebrate, the release and look at like the bigness of it. Because if I kind of go into those recording sessions thinking about the bigness of it, sometimes I get, it makes you nervous, it makes you a little overwhelmed, so it very much was like, I'm going to stay in the moment, while recording. And I've been lucky to work with really phenomenal directors, at Pixar. And so they're very good about setting the scene for you, helping you stay focused, situating you, getting what they need, for their editing process. Um, and so, especially like for the first one, working with John Lasseter, it was very much in the moment. He was in the booth with me. I had just learned how to read, so I couldn't even really like read the whole script. He was like helping me, you know, um, he was helping me through. And, a good director is your guide through the process.
Mm.
And same with when I came back for Toy Story 2 and then Toy Story 3 with Lee Unkrich. And yeah, so I've been really lucky to work with some great directors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, when the movie comes, you've done everything's done, the process is done for Toy Story 1.
Mhm.
When the movie comes out, John, you must have been the most popular kid in school. You're like, hang on a minute, that's me. I mean,
Yeah.
just talk to me. I mean, I can't imagine what it was
Yeah.
like, being I'm just a random 7-year-old kid going to school and coming home and doing his homework. You're a kid going to school,
Yeah.
coming home, doing his homework, and you're in the biggest animated movie of all time. I mean, again, talk to me what that was like when it's all done, the movie's out, everything's there, and you're like, hey, everyone, I'm kind of in Toy Story. What was that
Yeah.
like?
The movie came out, so I started recording when I was 7 and then it came out when I was 11.
Wow.
And
Well,
so that's a long time for a kid to keep a secret,
Very.
But I did, mainly because my mom was like, you can't tell anyone, like we've signed a contract here, like you cannot, So I basically could say, I would kind of leave school early sometimes or go after school to record.
Hmm.
And I just was like, I'm working on a movie, but couldn't, of course, talk about anything else. So I just was keeping this big secret. And then when it came out, I was kind of relieved, like I can tell everyone. And I remember, seeing it in the theaters and just how surreal that was, especially because Andy is the first voice we hear,
Mm.
in Toy Story. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's me, and I'm so loud, it's like, whoa. But then finally I could share with people, and I mean, usually I got two reactions. One was like so excited they couldn't speak, and the other was like, I don't believe you. you know um
yeah.
and that still happens. Like people will be like, I mean, at events they believe me with the banner and everything, but if usually if someone brings it up or something, they'll be like, really? And it's like, yeah, really. And so, there was a lot of disbelief at that age with
Mm.
my fellow 11-year-olds, but also everyone was really excited. And then I'm just really lucky because, practically everyone loves Toy Story.
Mm.
And so I'm
Yeah.
part of this awesome, incredible, franchise and legacy. And, it's taken me all over the world. I've gone to events in Australia and the UK and Ireland, and it looks like I'm going to be going to other countries soon. And so, that's just been, it's just sort of like the gift that keeps on giving in a sense. Yeah.
Mm. Well, one more for me. I've got loads, and then I'll let Neil come in with a couple of questions.
hmm
After Toy Story 1, obviously, and then we get Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, etc., and we go on and on and on.
hmm
What
hmm
was the biggest changes for you, John, in the process of filming and recording? Because obviously voices changes. You've got older. The character might still be a little bit younger. You might be a little bit older in
Yeah.
yourself. Were there any
Yeah.
big changes in Pixar that from the first movie? Because once that first movie is done, everyone's like, I want a second. I want to, we want more content, content, content. And we were getting
Yeah.
1995. It isn't what it is now. It isn't
Mm.
the internet. There isn't Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's, and
Right.
everything's getting a lot bigger now. What was the biggest difference you noticed in the process of like recording and filming, et cetera, from the first movie to probably when you wrapped the last movie, when Andy eventually hands over his toys, which I can imagine was quite emotional for you. What was the biggest difference in
Yeah.
the whole process for you that you noticed?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, with Pixar, I just saw this scale. They just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And to this day, when I visit the studios, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger,
Mhm.
in terms of scale and reach and staff, and so physical space of their studios. And so I've noticed that. And then with coming back to voice Andy in Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, I've always been older than him in real life,
Hmm.
Mhm.
which served me well in terms of, like for Toy Story 3, Lee Unkrich, the director, said, okay, so Andy's off to college and, he's going through his room and packing up his toys. Do you remember what that was like? It's like, yeah, I remember exactly what that was like, that process. And so I could draw on that. For Toy Story 2, what was interesting is my voice had already changed, but Andy's hadn't. And so I had to just think younger.
Mm.
And I've always kind of had to just think a little younger for
Hmm.
Mhm.
Andy. And thankfully, I to this day I still have like a little bit of youth in my voice and can sound younger. And so I could do that. And my voice hasn't dropped too much over time. And so I could still kind of get there. And it just, yeah, it really was, kind of the directors, as I said earlier, kind of like situating me with Toy Story 2 and then Toy Story 3, especially with the gap from Toy Story 2 to 3, so many years in
Hmm.
between.
Mhm.
We really like fast forward to this teenage Andy, who's off to college. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Neil, anything, brother?
Yes. So when you were recording, I think, well, it's probably for all of the Toy Story films that you're in. Um, because Andy doesn't know the toys are alive, and the toys are very, very aware of Andy. I was wondering,
Yeah.
when you were recording your dialogue, were you, other than say with the directors, were you like in the booth by yourself, or where was it a process of you're in the booth and Tom Hanks is there and Tim Allen's there and all the other cast are there, or was it kind of you're just alone?
Yeah. So I always recorded alone, as an actor. Um, the directors would be there, the producers, the writers sometimes. And so there, and of course the audio engineer. So there's a little team there.
Mhm.
But it was just me. And then I was lucky enough to meet, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen and others at the premieres
Mhm.
where we take a group photo and I get to chat with them for a minute.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was always, yeah, just solo. And the creative team was great about helping me along. Like they would always show me like storyboards and
Ah.
character drawings.
Mhm.
Sometimes there were toys in the booth, even before they'd been released to the
Wow.
public. So I could kind of like be looking at Woody and Buzz or, be looking at the toys, which helped me because Andy's looking at the toys.
Yeah.
So to kind of to actually like look at their faces,
Mhm.
was helpful. So they do the most that they can, in
Mhm.
terms of the Pixar creative team to get the actors where they need to be.
Right.
And then it was, yeah, just kind of those premieres and special events. For Toy Story 3, I was living in New York for part of that time,
Okay.
and Laurie Metcalf, Andy's mom,
Mhm.
was also in New York on Broadway. And so we had back-to-back sessions. So I got to chat with her a little bit, at
Okay.
least in between our sessions, which was
Yeah.
nice, like Andy's mom, Andy having an exchange in real life. Um, and so that was kind of a special memory.
Mhm.
But yeah, voiceover, voice acting. I teach it now
Oh, great.
to kids, teens, and adults, and it takes a lot of imagination because you don't always have storyboards, you don't always have character
Mhm.
drawings, and you need to use your imagination. So that is
Right.
key to being a voice actor. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's great.
So cool.
Um, and I do, I guess I would say I have one other question. And if
Hmm.
Andy, if you have this question, then I apologize.
No, no, no. You go
Right?
for it, bro.
Is do you specifically, do you have a moment, whether it's in the making of it or whether it was just you as an, well, actually, do you have a favorite moment as a participant? And do you have a favorite moment as a audience viewer of your time with Toy Story?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, so many moments. It's I think um I remember recording the opening sequence of Toy Story
Mhm.
and just the excitement of it, like especially because it was years, before it would be
Yeah.
released. And so just the excitement of it, like that Andy's in full play mode, he's creating all these voices, he's like totally in it. Um that jumps out. Same with the final scene of Toy Story 3, and especially like that monologue about Woody
Mhm.
that Andy has, and just recording that and how emotional I was and just how like beautiful the writing is.
Mhm.
I just remember, recording that and then just thinking like, oh my gosh, I think this is gonna affect people in a positive way. And that's kind of one of the things I hear at events all the
Mhm.
time is everyone's like, I cry whenever I watch the end of Toy Story 3.
If there's a
And it's
growing
not just
adult that tells
Andy.
you he didn't cry, they're lying.
Yeah, I mean, I cry when I watch it, and it's not just Andy and Bonnie and our lines. It's also like the music and the visuals and everything.
Mhm.
But yeah. So I think those two moments, kind of behind the scenes, and then yeah, the just the premieres and watching the finished films in their entirety and just being so excited, like oh my gosh, the whole world is going to get to see this, and meeting Tom Hanks and Tim Allen
Mhm.
and telling them you did a great job and them saying to me like you too, and just and the rest of the cast. A kind of a fun story too from Toy Story 4, the premiere was I was on the red carpet and then right next to me was Keanu Reeves,
Oh,
who voiced
oh,
Duke
Forky.
Kaboom.
Oh,
And I'm also like a Matrix fan and, all of his other movies, Bill and
mhm.
Ted's Excellent Adventure, My Own Private Idaho, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. And so I we were taking photos, separately, like 50 feet apart. And then I said to myself, I need to go over and just like introduce myself and say hi to Keanu Reeves because that was in 2019, and to
Mhm.
this day I haven't seen him since. So it's like you gotta capture these moments, And so I went up and just introduced myself, and we were chatting a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, so you're Andy? Cool," and he's kind of like Neo in real life. He has like that kind of. I see why he was cast. He's
Yeah,
has
that
that
aura.
this kind of like this aura, this depth, this kind of intensity that's very cool. Um,
Just
and
be
so yeah,
grateful he
so
didn't
that's
turn
just
into
kind of
John Wick.
right, right. That's right. Yes. So just those kind of moments too of like, wow, I got to chat with Keanu Reeves, and
Wow, that's incredible, man. John, what's it
yeah.
like? I don't know if you've seen the advert recently. I think it's going around on Disney Plus. There's an advert of a little girl watching a
Mhm.
Disney movie, and it passes along to generations. She eventually meets someone, she has a kid, and then she watches said Disney movie
Mhm.
with her kid.
Mhm.
For you as an actor and someone that has,
Yeah.
done what you've done with the Toy Story franchise, does it sometimes hit you like a bolt of lightning that you're going to be passed down from generation to generation to generation? Well, I was
Mhm.
15 when the first movie come out. I'm now nearly
Yeah.
40. I'm now nearly 46 years old. So I've got a
Mhm.
young daughter. Everyone's what, we passed it on to our kids. They're going to pass it on to their kids. That is the good thing about Pixar
Yeah.
and Disney, etc., etc. Do you ever take a
Yeah.
breath and you think, in years and years to come, when we're all long and gone and not here, people are still going to be watching Toy Story, and you're still going to be in people's lives, and kids, 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 and kids, kids are going to be watching it, and you're going to have an impact on their life was something that you started recording when you were 7 years old. Does that ever like blow your mind that you're going to be passed down from generation to generation?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean it's a great, it's a lot of emotions. It's like
Mhm.
feeling grateful and, honored to that I was chosen to voice Andy and surreal. To your point, at events all the time, I'll see like parents coming up, the parents who are in their 30s or 40s, and they have a stroller and their babies in the stroller or their kids are with them, and then their parents are with them and they've all seen Toy Story. And, and it's like there it is right in front of me, the multi-generational.
Mhm.
The funny thing is usually the kids have started with like Toy Story 4, because
Hmm.
it was most recent,
Yep.
or Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 3, and their parents are kind of introducing them to Toy Story and Toy Story 2, which is what they grew up with.
Hmm.
And then the grandparents are like, I've seen these all a million times because my kids and grandkids are watching them. So it's awesome to see that ripple effect. And they say like it's important to make your positive mark on the world. And to me, this is a way that I have made a positive mark on the world. So I feel really grateful for that. And I can't believe like Toy Story 5 is coming out.
Mm.
And apparently down the road there may be Toy Story 6 or beyond. And, so it's just incredible. It's incredible to be part of, the first feature-length animated film created with computers, to be the voice that opens it, all of it. I just feel so blessed and grateful.
Mhm.
Obviously, in 2026, John,
Mhm.
we are getting
Hmm.
Toy Story 5. I'm not going
Yeah.
to ask you the obvious question, so don't worry. Is there anything you can tell us about Toy Story 5? I mean, the excitement when that was announced was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think that shocked anyone. We were all as adults, we're like,
Hmm.
we're getting Toy Story 5. And then you're seeing the younger
Yeah.
generation of like, we're getting what?
Yeah.
And you're having to explain to them, you haven't seen Toys. I'm like, well, okay, we're watching them all again.
Yeah.
Would you like to, I guess, how can I word this? Would you like to see what Andy's up to as an adult? I'll put it that way.
Yes. The answer is so, you know, I could only talk about what's been announced. Would
Mhm.
love to talk about that. Um, yes, my personal feeling is yes. I would love to see Andy as an adult. And mainly that's because, as we were kind of talking about earlier before we got on the podcast, um, every fan or every other fan that I talk with is interested in where Andy is. They ask me, what do you think he majored in college? Is he married? Does he have kids? Does he have Andy Jr.? You know, where is he in life? And I often ask them, like, well, what do you think? And we kind of talk about it, and it's fun to think about.
Mhm.
Um, it, we know that Andy, of course, went off to college, gave his toys to Bonnie, and it's been sort of Bonnie's time now and
Hmm.
Bonnie's chapter. And a lot of fans have said, especially those in their 30s and 40s, that for them it would be a full circle moment if Andy did return. And it's like the whole story would come full circle. So
Mm.
that's also
Mm.
interesting to think about. That being said, I'm really excited about the direction of Toy Story 5.
Mhm.
I'm excited that Jessie is kind of going to step into the spotlight. I think it's her turn
Mhm.
for us to learn more about her and her backstory, and for her to step in. And I think the whole toys versus technology is very timely,
Hmm.
with kids on screens, kids
Mhm.
on phones, kids on tablets, kids on iPads, really timely. And it's interesting that, Lily Pad is kind of like the villain and or one of the villains and what that's going to look like. Um, I saw recently that they announced the runtime, which is going to be an hour and a half.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to think about what they're going to fit into an hour and a half,
Mhm.
90 minutes. Um, and there's going to be like the army of Buzz Lightyears, that are on an island. And there's a lot of questions about like, how does Woody come back? Because we know Woody's coming back, so I think there's a lot there. And, new characters, new toys. So I'm just as excited as everyone else. It's in very good hands because Andrew Stanton is at the helm, who's been
Yeah.
there from the start of, the Toy Story series, and of course a core member of the Pixar creative team, and of course he directed Finding Nemo and Wall-E and many
Mhm.
others. So, it's in very good hands, and
Mhm.
that's what I keep telling everyone because they're asking me what I can share, and that's kind of what I can share at this point. Um, but I'm excited, and now it's like a few months away, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Not long.
Uh, you know, yeah,
Mm.
not long. It's going to be here before we know it, and it's going to be one of kind of like the summer blockbusters.
It is.
So
It
I'm
is.
excited about that. Yeah,
Tom,
yeah.
when you're going into the booth to do these roles, say we're talking like Toy Story 3 and 4 now, do
Hmm.
you pressure's probably the wrong word, but knowing how big it got, does that
Yeah,
kind of weigh on your mind a little bit as an act, just as an actor, not as like someone you're in Toy Story, just you personally, you're
yeah.
thinking, wow, this is like a we never really knew what we were getting with the first Toy Story, and then it, like I said earlier, it blew up. So when you
Mhm.
get to say Toy
Yeah.
Story, when you get to the later Toy Stories, 3 and 4, let's say for argument's sake,
Mhm.
you as an actor and as John Morris, do you think, wow,
Hmm.
I've I've got to now. This has got to be some of the best work I've ever done because, or does it not? Like you said earlier, you just go into that zone and you just try and blank out all the noise because, like it or not, like as an actor, you're central to the, like I said at the start, the
Mhm.
biggest animated movies
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
time. How do you process that as an actor, just personally for you?
Yeah. So especially with the third one. So the fourth one, I was a little bit off the hook in a way because they pulled from Toy Story
Hmm.
3. So I
Mhm.
didn't have to actually record anything for Toy Story 4. And I was like, that's okay, pull from Toy Story 3. But for Toy Story 3, especially that final scene, yeah, I needed to so that's where, the director Leon Critch was key because even at the beginning of the process, we started recording kind of the beginning where Andy's in his room and he's 17. And it even took us a little time that first recording session. It's like, what does Andy sound like now? Like, what kind
Hmm.
of teenager is he? We know he's a good kid with a good heart. He's Andy. He cares about his toys. He cares about his family. He cares about his dog. But and so there's always been like a warmth to him and his voice, but it's like, what kind of teenager is he? And how does he feel like when his younger sister comes in his room? You know,
Mhm.
and he's not like yelling at her, but he's like, Molly, get out of my room. He's like, this is my room. This is my space. And so we had to kind of find that a little bit. And once I found that voice again, of Andy, then I felt confident and it was like, okay, now we can move forward. And then with recording the final scene and how emotional that was, I remember the whole creative team, Lee and the creative team just said like, okay, we're not going to rush through this. Like, we're going to give this time. We have the whole afternoon to kind of work on this. There's no rush, and because we had to just take our time with it.
Mhm.
And for me, the timing worked out really well because I had graduated from UCLA and I studied acting at UCLA.
Hmm.
Right.
And so I had more training. I had that training, that acting training, connecting to my emotions, personalizing, so I could draw on it, which I needed to.
Mhm.
And the director, Lee, said to me, think about a time in your life when you've said goodbye to something and you're not necessarily going to see it again, something or someone,
Mhm.
and what that is like for you emotionally. And so, I personalizing that is how I got there. And I think it hit a lot of people emotionally because I was emotional, and again, the music and the visuals and how it all came together.
Mhm.
And you feel that. You feel the emotion in that scene. And so I had to kind of dig deep and again, I had to just stay present because I couldn't think about uh, the enormity of it and that
Mhm.
like billions of people have seen these movies around the world. It's like too big to think about, Even
Yeah.
now it's
Mhm.
mind blowing. But it's true. Billions of people around the world have seen these movies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Several
Um,
times.
yeah, it's more than several
Yeah,
times,
yeah,
I'd say. More than several.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
John, you say you're teaching now, like voice
Yeah.
acting, etc., etc.
Mhm.
Uh, what is that like? Because obviously, growing up doing what you do, and then you've gone on to do other movies as well, etc., etc. What's the main message that you want to get across to your students at the minute? Because people go like probably like, I want to be a voice actor. It's not a case of you just going into a booth and doing
Yeah.
voices. It's not. What's the message that you try to give to the next generation of voice actors that you really try to drum into them?
Yeah. So now I teach kids, teens, and adults in person
Mhm.
and online voiceover. So it's a little bit different if it's one-on-one versus a group, setting or whatnot. And if we're focused on commercials or animation or narration, but usually I teach animation.
Mhm.
And my main points, sometimes someone will say to me like, I can, make funny voices and I can do impressions, so I should be a voice actor. And it's like, okay, that may be part of it, but it's really voice acting. And so the acting is really what we focus on. And that it comes from a real place, that it comes from an authentic place, because you can hear it. You can hear it if it
Mhm.
is or it isn't coming from that place. And I work with them on a broad range of things, exploring their range, diction, dialects, even breathing, creating sounds. I'm working with one of my students. He's really interested in creatures. So we're working on
Hmm.
like werewolf sounds, vampire sounds,
Mhm.
goblin sounds, so it's really customized based on what they're interested in.
Mhm.
And I'm just really helping them along as a teacher and coach. Some are beginner, intermediate, advanced, some are already professional voice actors. So it really just depends on what they're bringing to me. And then I oftentimes am the sounding board for them, kind of like a director, like giving them direction, giving them things to work on, because it's hard to do that yourself. I know that firsthand when I'm recording an audition from home, I have to kind of be my own director. And it's challenging. It's easier actually when it's someone else being like, try this, try this, try this. So I and now I have, over 30 years of experience as a
Hmm.
voice actor. So I draw on that and I'm really enjoying it. And it feels like my way to give back. It feels like my way to give to the next generation, kind of pass the baton. And I'm still auditioning. I'm, still a professional voice actor auditioning. And so it helps keep things fresh for me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um,
Go on, Neil. Yep. Go,
yeah.
mate.
So it's an odd question, I'll admit, is thinking about like when we were discussing about legacy, about essentially, how
Hmm.
Toy Story is, it's so old. I mean, old. It's so long standing. I was, I mean,
Yeah.
I
Over three
started,
decades now. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I started high school the
Yeah,
year
yeah.
it came out. So I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Neil had
No.
hair when
Yeah,
Toy
yeah, yeah.
Story come out.
I
Yes.
absolutely, I had hair on my head, none on my face. Right.
I mean, I
Um,
hear this from a lot of folks. They're like 30 years. It's like, yeah, 30 years. Here we are. Now we're
yeah.
past 30 years. Yeah,
Mhm. And it's so the weird question I ask is how do you, because you talked about how you feel when you, yeah, when you, passing it down to your students and things like that. But I
yeah.
want to, so how did it feel the first time you met someone, say at a convention or somewhere, and they were like, I'd like you to meet Andy, my kid, who I named Andy after watching Toy
Yeah,
Story.
yeah, yeah. Which happens a lot.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I attended my first event,
Mhm.
like Comic-Con, in 2017,
Oh wow.
and I had no idea. I honestly didn't even really know about them
Mhm.
before that time. And someone reached out to me and, basically said like there are a lot of fans who like to meet voice actors and like the voices behind
Mm.
these characters and I just couldn't believe um like how much interest there was and
Mhm.
excitement about it and it's so much fun for me and yeah, so meaningful when like someone will say like here's my kid Andy and that's named after your character. And when the Andy Funko Pop came out this past year, like being able to sign
Mhm.
him and personalize, with everyone's favorite lines and
Mhm.
signing Woody and Buzz boots and signing VHS tapes and, you know, um, all these things, posters, and it's really meaningful for me. And also from the fans' perspective, only so many Toy Story voice actors do these events.
Yeah.
And, they want to get, of course, all the characters on their poster, all the signatures on their poster, which I totally get. And so I like to be able to offer that. Like, yeah, I'd love to sign your poster, and add to your collection. Because I know firsthand, how challenging that can be for fans, and also like sometimes when you mail something and wanting to get it back and all these things. And so I like to be able to fulfill that. And the exciting thing too is I'm now doing events with some of the other like Pixar voice actors too, like voice of Nemo, voice of Boo, voice of
Oh.
Bonnie in Toy Story 3, voice
Mhm.
of the aliens, voice of Miguel and Coco. So it's fun to be able to,
Mhm.
when there's like a group of us and
Mhm.
they can get, multiple signatures from the Pixar Kid voice actors. And so that's been a kind of a fun recent addition in the last few years. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, that's awesome. John, last couple from us, my friend.
Mhm.
One's a little
Mhm.
funny one. Please tell me you saw the TikTok trend last year of Andy's coming. It went, what did you think when you saw that? I thought it was such a funny trend to see, but for you, you must have been like,
Yeah.
this is a bit weird.
Yeah, at first I wasn't it sort of started at events, like people would
Mhm.
just be like, Andy's coming when I was walking. And I didn't really understand what was happening at first.
Mhm.
And then very quickly people started showing me examples like on social media and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. And then it's fun to see like, like in offices and things, like when someone rounds the corner, they're like, Andy's coming. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so now I'm actually doing that at events, like, with
Awesome.
cosplayers and fans, and I'm gonna keep doing it because there's a lot of interest around it.
Mhm.
And I even was at Pixar recently, and they recorded something, the little Andy's Coming challenge, and so it's yeah, it's really fun, and it shows kind of like the fun of social media too, and the
Yeah.
creativity of social media. And now I get what's going on. Um, and yeah, and I don't usually. I was recently being interviewed, and they were like, "Do you yell out Andy's coming at events?" And it's like, not yet. Usually, people kind
Yeah,
of
they spot
shout
you.
it when they see me coming. Yeah, 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 yeah. But I guess I could
Exactly.
do that too. Yeah,
Exactly. Cool, man. John, last couple. What do you think have been the biggest changes in the industry since you started? We talk often on this show
yeah.
the power of what social media's got now, for good and for bad, because there is
Hmm.
good and bad in social media. It's great that we get to do things like
Yeah.
this. I'm here in the UK. Obviously, you're over there
Right.
stateside. That's brilliant.
Right.
But for you,
Yeah.
as you've gone through the whole process from being a kid to where you are now, what's been the
Hmm.
biggest changes, would you say, in the industry that you've seen, for good or for bad?
Yeah. So I would say the good is, I at my table at events, I have prints, of course, of all the Andes, 1 through 4. And just to see the progression side by side, of the animation and the detail and the visuals is so interesting. Even like, in hair and
Mhm.
grass and like those kinds of details, obviously have gotten more advanced and just detailed over time. And fans always comment on that when they see the prints side by side. So that's definitely like a positive. Um, I think on the more challenging side is, kind of things like AI
Hmm.
and the future of AI and what that could look like. And of course, I come from a place where, I value authenticity of voice
Oh,
and,
you're in the right
Yes,
place for that,
you are in the
uh,
man.
red. What?
yeah. And so I a little bit nervous. And for me, I get a lot of questions about AI, and I think about it more at like the visuals, like
Mhm.
the visual capacity of AI, and AI generators and things can be interesting, and more visually. when it comes to voice acting, of course, I'm 100% for like the authentic actor's voice and it not being like duplicated, it coming from the actor um live, and so and of course, the industry is kind of shifting, but the SAG union is on it and everyone's,
Hmm.
watching it closely, which is good. And I think, I recently saw, I know this is a little off topic, but I recently saw Avatar
Mhm.
and in theaters and just to see, and then I watched some of the behind the scenes the with the acting and how they actually created it. And I mean, it's sort of mind blowing, like what we can create now in
Hmm.
2026
Yeah.
um and technically
Yeah.
and using technology. And so that's exciting and feels very cutting edge.
Mhm.
Um, but I trust Pixar. I trust Pixar and they like continuity and they value story and characters and authenticity. And so
Mm.
I feel, like in safe hands and good hands with them. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. John, I know you're so busy doing like conventions, etc., etc. Any chance we see you in the UK soon, my friend?
Yes, actually. It hasn't been officially announced yet, I don't think. But I'll just say that I will be in the UK in the fall,
Okay.
in October.
Okay.
And so I definitely will blast that out on social media when I can, when it's been
I have an
announced.
idea of
And
I
where.
think I know where you're going to be. I'll
Yeah.
tell you when we're not recording. Actually, I'm pretty sure I know where you're going to be.
okay,
Yeah. That's
okay.
fair.
And so folks can follow me if on Instagram.
Hmm.
My handle is at John Charles Morris. So I always announce as soon as I can announce things, I announce
Hmm.
them in terms of
Hmm.
like events, projects, and I'll blast it out. And so I'll definitely let folks know. And then I'm actually going to be coming back to Ireland too. Uh, I I visited Ireland for the first time for Dundalk Comic Con last year and had a total blast.
Hmm.
And also I was in the UK for Oxford Card Show last year and also had a total blast.
Hmm.
And what was amazing to me is folks came from all over the UK
Oh,
and
yes.
Oh,
Ireland
we do.
for those events. And I was just like, they're like, I drove 4 hours, I drove 6 hours, I drove
Yeah.
8 hours. It's like, wow, I took the train. And it was awesome. And I appreciated them making that
Mhm.
effort because I know that's not easy. But they were like, I've never met someone from Toy Story. I've never met you. I needed to make the effort.
Mhm.
And so that was awesome.
Oh,
And look forward to coming back. And the fun thing about, I live in San Francisco, and the fun thing for me about going to the UK or Ireland is I always extend a little bit my
Mhm.
trip. And so it's cool to like check out Dublin, check out London, and just kind of spend some time in those cities. Yeah.
most definitely. London. If you ever need a tour guide around London, we've got you, John. Don't worry. We'll look after you over here, my friend.
Okay,
We will
okay, good
definitely
to
look
know. Good
after
to
you. We
know.
need a tour. John, thank you so much for taking the time to come on our show. It really does mean a lot to us.
Thank
Like I
you.
say, we grew up with Toy Story.
Absolutely.
This is one of the main reasons we love doing what we do. We get to sit down and literally relive our
Yeah.
childhood and chat to some of the people that we grew up with. We've seen on
Hmm.
TV, in movies. I can't wait to see you in the UK, my friend. Keep up the
Hmm.
hard work. It's amazing that
Yeah.
you're passing the baton onto the next generation of actors and voice
Oh, thank you.
actors, and the knowledge they're gonna get from you, my friend, is gonna be
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for coming on, man. We really do appreciate it.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for all your kind words and also your great questions. You
Oh,
asked really
thank you.
great, thoughtful questions.
Oh,
So I
thank you so
appreciate
much.
that too.
Oh, thank you very much. If anyone wants to check out our content, just go onto YouTube and type in Completed It Podcast. That logo behind me is what you'll see. You can find us on X at Completed It Pod, Instagram, Completed It Podcast, Facebook, just type in Completed It Podcast. Me and Neil and Stash will be there. This video will be out as soon as we can. John, thank you very much, my friend. I wish you nothing but great success in whatever you do. I will definitely be getting my Funko Pop signed when you come to the UK. Don't you
Mhm.
worry about that. But
Nice.
thanks everyone for tuning in. Till next time, stay safe.